G'day there, it's Karen again from Vintage Style Journals. Just bringing to you my second page for my little shopping bag journal. But as I mentioned in my last video, I've painted a woman on a tabletop and in one of my journals, and I just thought I want to show you so that you also can be inspired to do this type of thing. But I'm also going to show you a cheat version of placing something like this particular type of design on a page or a piece of furniture or whatever. Obviously this is not my original painting, even though I painted this myself on this little tabletop here. But what I did originally was I looked at a picture of The Soul of the Rose, which is the title of this one by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. And it's been one of my beautiful love kind of pictures for many years now. So I tend to paint it on lots of things, and this is just one of my little tabletops. But I also wanted to show you that beautiful French paper that I showed you the other day. I painted this in a watercolor. It's quite a deep watercolor, and as you can see, her face is a little bit funky because of the paper itself. But yeah, kind of whipped this up one morning while I was just watching our live stream service on the TV. And you know, just these little roses here, they're just very shabby, quick kind of roses. So these are some of the things that I'll be painting throughout my journal. Now I know that not everybody is a painter, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to just put something beautiful in your journals as you create them, just a little bit of you, but without having to be an artist. I've actually taken you through how to paint these type of flowers on one of my other videos. By the way, this is Molly Duca wines. They're in South Australia, and this isn't really an ad. It's just that I love their label designs, and I've placed them throughout my journal as I've finished the beautiful bottles of red that come from them. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that one on that piece of paper. I'll be doing a few little artworks on some of this paper throughout my journal, but it's not all going to be about art necessarily, but I just want it to be a little bit special because that's one of my journals that I painted years ago. So she's got a long way to go to be filled. And the other thing I've done is, you know, you don't just, you can paint on anything, and I made this bag. I'll just try and go out a little. I can't really go out, but I did this many years ago, and this is a canvas bag that I've made, and then I painted her on the bag. So this is a really big shopping bag which I take on special occasions. So you know, you've got to give these things a go. I taught this as a project workshop when I was living in Hobart, and yeah, that was quite a popular workshop. But today, for the purpose of this journal, what I want to do is give you an easy option. So I'll just move that one out of the way. Let's pop it over here. I've taken a photo of the bag that I just showed you, and I've just put her on normal kind of, what is it, printing paper, copy paper. You can use a special type of paper if you like, but this is my painted version on the bag. So I'm going to use her rather than the original version that Rossetti painted. I like my style because it's sort of rough. It's not exactly the same as it probably could have been in the beginning, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop some all-purpose sealer. I use the Josonia brand, and I've had good success with this over time. What I'm going to do is pop a few layers down over her, and if you've got a picture that you really love and you want to use as a part of a design in your book or in your journals, just I'm going to just pop it straight onto the brush. Just put the sealer over it. We're going to go one way and then the other way. Hopefully this won't run. This has been sitting around for quite a long time because I think I took the photo when I actually did the bag. So just going to just put some even brush strokes. Try not to go over the same spot too many times. And you can see that's quite a thick layer of sealer there. Let's get it out. I'm going to put a couple of layers over. Look, you may have already tried this on other photos, but what this is going to do is it'll give you the outcome once I'm done. I think I've covered that. Now that'll need to dry, and what I'm going to do is make a crisscross type of pattern so that I've got a sort of like a linen look, and then we're going to cut away the paper and rub off the back of this particular picture, and hopefully it's going to leave us with a type of transfer. So my pages in my journal I've painted with a white gesso, so this is going to go perfectly on that as a background. And then I might just do some painting or even just some stamping or something around her. So I'm going to leave it to dry. I'm taking a bit of a risk here because this may not work out. I've done it before, but I thought, you know, for those of you who are not painters, I don't mean to make this a painting journal for everybody who cannot paint. I want things in it that you can actually achieve if you're not a painter. And what I've done this morning before I put the camera on was I actually, if you were watching my other video the other day when I started to decorate the front of my journal, I've actually, I'll just let that dry for a few minutes. I've actually crackle varnished. I was actually going to put on the inside of these pages, I was going to put paper over that, but I thought I'll take a bit of a chance and see what comes of it when I do some of the crackle over it. And yes, I am a little bit of a crackle freak. I don't like the weathered look type of crackle. As far as the old sandwich type crackle, I don't particularly like that, the way that comes out. I prefer to have the crackle cure type of look, and that's why I use this baby here. I also use the Josonia brand of crackle varnish, it's called, or crackle medium. It has a crackle cure as well. They also sell the sandwich type one, but it's not my preference. But look, I've had some wonderful outcomes with their products over many years, and that's why I would say the brand. They don't pay me for this at all. Yeah, I just thought if you're looking to have an interesting type of journal, you might consider doing some of the different mediums as I go through this. I'm going to pop a few mediums, but most of the time, just for the sake of not having to spend extra bucks on different mediums, I'm going to stick with the Montmartre crackle paste and just you know, make it more of a uniform type of look. Even though each page will be different, I'll have the same crackle on the page. Just take you back to the front page again. This is still a little bit wet because I just put the varnish on it now. So you remember the front page, that turned out pretty cool, I think. So I'm going to try and stick with these colors as well, just so that my journal is not uniform necessarily, but it's going to work in together. All of the designs that I do are going to be either rose focused or women focused amongst the roses, obviously. So I'm going to do a little smattering of painting, some stamping, just waiting for this to dry. I've put the matte varnish down. And the reason for that, as I let you know earlier in the other video, is to protect the background so that when I do put the paint on, I can wipe it off and it won't be sort of patchy on the background. It just sort of seals the surface without giving it a shine, such as the sealer would probably have a little bit of a shine on it. I don't particularly prefer glossy things. I prefer to go with a matte finish, so that's why I use the matte varnish on this. It just gives it a coat of seal over top of the crackle. I've got a feeling too that it actually, you can see the cracks in that. This is before I put the seal or the varnish over it. It was similar, but I think it might have caused it to crack a little bit more, which is even better. So when I actually put the colour in there, I'm going to be able to just wipe it off. So yeah, that's why I did that. So I'm going to just get this woman, get this, you can see the sealer over it is a bit shiny. It's still a little bit wet. So I'm just going to come back and put a couple of coats on that. I'm going to go, as I said, I'm going to go across this way, and then I'll probably put about 4 coats maybe on this. So yeah, if you want to do something like this, grab a picture, and if you've got some sealer, great. Even varnish will work. I tend to use the sealer just because I'm bound to blow it if I use anything different to what I've used in the past. So I'll be back in a minute once this is dry. Right, I've actually put probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 coats on here. You can do that, or you can use something like a decoupage medium, which would work equally well. It's probably got about, I don't know, half a dozen layers all in just the one stroke. So look, if you don't use their products already, go and have a look at Chroma online, and this is Chroma Australia, where you can get all of their mediums. I think if you're going to do an art type of project, then it's good to have the mediums, and you know, I'd be very happy to share how to use each one of them and how to get the best results. If you're, you know, wondering how on earth you use them, they do last for such a long time. So even though you might outlay a bit of a cost to start with, they're actually, you know, over time you'll be glad that you did. You know, even if you pick on 1 or 2, yeah, just go and have a look. I'll put the link down on my site in the description if you're interested. Alrighty. The other thing I wanted to mention too is that I don't know whether I did mention it in my previous videos, but what I'm going to do is I'm doing 2 journals, and I'm going to do them similarly, and when I'm done, going to try and upload a picture a day, or you know, like a page or 2 per day, just to see how I go. I have all good intentions of getting that done, but I do work full-time, so even if it's every couple of days, stay tuned, because I'm going to be decorating each of the pages just to give you some ideas. The other thing I'm going to do is give one of the journals away when I'm done. So, you know, if you're happy to work along with me or stay tuned to my videos, leave a comment, and I'll put everybody's name who leaves a comment and subscribes. I'll put them all into a one of those things that pick out a number, I suppose, and we'll do that so that you can see who wins the actual journal in the end. It'll have some of my artwork, original artwork in it. I'll be doing some painting and all kinds of crazy kind of medium stuff. So yeah, hang in there with me, and if you'd like a shot at that, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment for me. Or even if you've got any questions about the mediums that I use, you know, if you want to know how to use them to the best effect, I'm pretty much a full bottle on it. As I said earlier in one of my videos, I used to teach for just Sonia, just using all their bits and pieces to show people how to use their products, and so I do know what I'm talking about. So if you want to trust me with that, I'm happy to answer any of your questions regarding any of the mediums or paints that I use. I'm tearing this just to get rid of the majority of the white paper. And the reason I'm tearing it is because sometimes if you cut it with the scissors, the fluid that I'm going to be putting in the back of this, which is water, it will go in to the paper easily if there's a torn edge rather than just a cut edge. So I'm just tearing it around the picture. It doesn't have to be perfect because well, nothing I do is super perfect anyway. I think that's the beauty of hand done or hand created. So just tear that off. You'll see what I'm going to do in a minute anyway. I might just go down this edge too, just to give it an even shot of getting the water into the back of the paper. You may have done this yourself already, so, you know, I'm sorry if I'm kind of teaching you to do stuff that you're already aware of. But for those who haven't, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop this in a tray. This was going to be my palette, but I found that it was great, but it was just far too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn her over. You can see because of the sealer, it's gone into the back of the colour there, which is what we want. And I'm trusting that my photo or my picture isn't too old to cause a problem with the ink actually lifting onto the sealer that I put over the top. That's the whole point. You can do this with hot water. I'm just doing it with cold water. Some people would leave it overnight just to see how it's soaking into the back of that paper there. Pressing down a bit just to help it along. You can see the edges have already pulled up that water into the picture. Even a cut edge would do it, but I find that a torn edge is much better for this type of thing. So I'm just sort of poking at it to, obviously you can see that, but just poking at it to get that water into the back of that paper there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start rubbing the actual design. I'm going to rub the paper off the back. I'm not going to be too rough with it because I don't... Ultimately, you can have a transfer look, or you can just simply, you know, have an almost transfer look. I'm not sure what I'm going to go for here. It just depends how well this sealer has taken up the ink. Because as I said, I printed this picture up years ago and it's just been sitting there. If you're doing it on a fresh picture, just make sure that the ink is dry before you start putting some... look, it's taking off some of the ink here, so I'm not sure how it's going to look. We'll find out, I suppose. So yeah, just bear with me, and I'll get all of this off. I don't want to sort of stop the camera so that you can see how I'm going along the way. My hand's kind of in the way a little bit there, but just, yeah, bear with me. You could probably use a soft cloth to rub this. I tend to do it with my fingers because I can feel the paper with my finger, whereas if I did it with a cloth, I might be just a little bit heavy-handed and rub all of the background off. I just want to have a quick look at that before I go any further, just to see that I'm not wasting my time here. Yeah, so you can see some of that is see-through at the back. So it may rub off a little bit more ink than I'd hoped, but we'll keep going. You can see the paper's obviously quite wet, so you can do this. I'd recommend, if you don't have the time to be, you know, fiddling around with it, trying to get all the paper off the back of it, just use the actual painting or a picture of whatever you like and just stick it in your book, and you can put some medium over top of it to give it an interesting effect, even if you're using a crackle over the top, not the one that I showed you, the Montmartre one, but the Jo Sonja one that cracks on the surface. Usually it needs a couple of layers of paint to crack beautifully, and you just pop it over top of the paint and then it will crack along the lines of the strokes of the paint, the brush strokes rather. And so if you were to put something like that over a picture like this on the top, it will crack on the surface of it, so that could give you another idea as far as, you know, making it look like it's been painted on and you've got some crackle over the top. I've seen this with a few paintings that they flog in markets. You know, they tend to put some crackle varnish over the top and then just make out like it's an old picture. It doesn't look too bad. Well, I know the secret, and I think, you know, why not do that if you're feeling a little bit less confident to do this way. I just want to show you the other side of that again, just to see. So it is keeping the actual painting there, but it's still got a little bit of a way to go to get the paper off. I'm only using one finger. You can use a couple if you like, do it your way, but just take it easy. Don't be too rough and ready, because you'll probably tear the sealer, because even though it's like a polymer type of product, it will actually tear if you put too much pressure on it, or go too hard with your with your rubbing of the paper. So this is just going to go down on my white surface when I finally get it done. I think what I'll do is I'll just finish off this so that you're not bored to death, and I'll come back after I've taken all the paper off it. Right, well, just finished doing the transfer for the Soul of the Rose painting that I did. Not happy with this. The reason being, I think the picture was a little bit too old, because I printed it up years ago, as I said earlier. I took most of the paper off it. As you can see, it's pretty, well, reasonably see-through at the back. But when the outcome, actually I should have realised when the ink started coming off on my finger a little bit that it wasn't going to be ideal. So what I've done is I've actually printed up a couple of other pictures, because I'm going to do the 2 journals, as I mentioned earlier, one for me and one to give away. But I'm not happy with that, because obviously when it was printed up quickly, and it was printed up many years ago. So trash this one, and I'll show you the one that I've just finished, which is this one, which is a much better option, don't you think? So I've printed up 2 of these. I've taken the majority of the paper off this one, and it's pretty transparent. So you could probably use this on glass if you wanted to. You know, it's just an idea really. Now I put 4 coats of sealer over the print itself, and going this way and then that way to get a bit of a linen thing happening. But ultimately what I'm going to do with her is I'm going to stick her in my journal, and then I'm going to actually put some matte varnish over top, because I don't like the shininess of that, and that's just my own preference. So I'm going to pop her down on a page. But this is what it looks like, the printed. So there's not a lot of difference. Obviously this is a bit brighter because I haven't taken the white background off yet. And all I did was, as I showed you just a little while ago, is to put it in water. I don't use hot water, I just use cold water. Lay the print face down in the water and start, once the paper starts to become a little bit more transparent, you just start to rub it off gently with your fingers. Don't get overly zealous about it, because you don't want to rip this. But again, just 4 coats of the all-purpose sealer. I think equally you could probably put 4 coats of varnish over the picture that you're looking to try and use. I tend to use sealer because I know it works. Obviously, it didn't work, well, the sealer worked, but the print itself didn't work. And the key to printing up a good quality picture is, on your printer settings, just go into the paper setting and put it down for something like a matte inkjet paper. And that way it won't come through the printer too quickly, and then it will sort of soak in a little bit to the page, so you're not going to lose any ink once you put your sealer over top. Just make sure that the printed image is dry. Don't do it while it's just out of the printer. Give it about 5 minutes and then start to put the sealer over top. The other thing that I did, I'll just mention too, is between each of the coats of sealer, I actually used my heat gun, or you could probably use a hairdryer if you don't have a heat gun, just to dry it off gently so that I could get through it a little bit more quickly. I didn't have to wait for each layer to dry. And all I've done here is I've actually dried it off a little bit on this paper towel. And I'm just going to stick this down on one of the pages. And the reason I've done this is for the non-painters watching this little journal expedition here. You can do this with any print that you like. So you don't have to be a painter, but you can get a really good quality print that just doesn't look like sticking a page in. It'll look a little bit different because of the transparent sort of appearance of it. The other thing too, you don't have to use the whole square. I've left some of the white paper on there. You could put some medium around the edges, or you could just cut around where you what part of the picture you want. You don't have to keep the whole picture, but I'm actually going to do that. And part of the reason why I like the white gesso on the background is so that, you know, you've got a little bit of the brightness of the white coming through that background there, because without it, it would look okay, but not quite as bright. All right, so how I'm going to stick this down now is, I figure what I'm going to do is just use some sealer to put it down. So that pretty much just means I'm just going to paint the sealer over the back and stick it to the actual page. That's the beauty of these mediums. They can be used for in a variety of different ways. And I'm using again the Jo Sonja all-purpose sealer. So I'm just put a little bit, like about a 10-cent piece, I suppose, on the back of your page, on the back of your brush, and then just brush it lightly over. Oops, just gathered it in a bit. I'll just straighten that out. And then you're going to, I'm being a bit rough and ready here, trying to do it too quickly probably, and then just then just stick it down. Come on, play fair, play fair. All right. Oh my goodness. All right. I don't want too much, but I want enough to act as a glue for the actual print. So I'm just going to add a little bit more than that 10-cent piece there. Just add a little bit more, make sure I've got enough. You can use glue. I'm just using the sealer because it's handy, and it's actually going to stick it down where I want it. And if you're working along with me, I've put up some pictures of the Soul of the Rose on my blog, and I've left a link in the video itself. I've also put a link on my Facebook page so that you can just go and print up the design. If you're interested in using this particular design, just go and print it up from there. So it's quite flexible. I'm going to probably just maybe press it down a bit. So it doesn't matter if the sealer goes on the page. Sometimes if you put glue on the page, you'll notice it more. But the sealer being nice and well fluid, it doesn't sort of chunk up like the glue would. So I'm putting that one down. I'll just add a little bit here, the edges curling up a bit. Okay. Now you can put sealer over the top. What I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to put a matte varnish over that, because as I said earlier, I do not like the shine particularly. It's not my cup of tea. And as much as, you know, it doesn't look bad, it's just not my thing. So I'm going to just quickly grab some matte medium varnish, give it a bit of a shake. And I'm just going to, with the same brush, because I'm a bit of a grub, I don't want to put water on my brush. I'm just about out of my sealer, I think, out of my varnish. So I'm putting the matte varnish down, and I'm just going to use the other side of my brush because it's still quite dry looking. Just going to put the varnish over the top of that picture. Hopefully, the plan is that it will actually be matte and I won't have any shine at all. So here's hoping. Haven't done this for a little while, so yeah, just gone a little bit heavy-handed there with the matte varnish. I've got a few little globs in it because I didn't shake it properly. Just wipe that off on my trusty bit of paper towel here at the side. Yeah, try not to sort of let it blob up on your picture, but it doesn't matter if it does because it'll add to the overall effect anyway. All right, so I'm just going to maybe dry that off and see what it looks like. And then I'm going to think about what I'm going to do around the edge. This is just a real cheat of a decoration. So yeah, I might put some stamping or something around the edge there. And then once that's dry, what I'll do is I'll do this particular page here. As I said before, I'm going to make this sort of a floral, feminine looking kind of journal, and hopefully it'll play nice with me. So I'm just going to put my heat gun on. I'm just turning off the camera while I do that so it's not too loud. I'm going to see what the outcome is for her. I've dried off a little bit, but what I've done is I've added a little bit of crackle paste, that one, Mont Marte, again, just around the edges, just to give it a further degree of texture. Can see the matte varnish is starting to dry out, and it is indeed becoming a matte looking picture. You don't have to follow this step, this is just my thing, but it just makes it look a little bit more interesting than a piece of picture shoved on in the center there. So once I've put the paste on and it dries out, I'm going to put some paint in the cracks and see what it looks like. I think I might go with this particular color here, maybe a bit of the green in the background. I'll just pick up, not going to try and make it uniform, but I think what I will need to do is dry this off with my heat gun, just so that we can move along a little bit quicker than what I've been going. Yeah, but that should give me some really nice cracks. It still looks like a square, but you know, it'll give it a little bit of extra interest with the extra paint that I'll put in it. I'll just close up my crackle, put my heat gun on, and we'll get started on it. Now this is a little bit processy, a little bit time consuming, but it's worth it in the long run. You're going to have a beautiful, beautiful piece to, you know, have as an addition in the middle of your journal. I'm going to leave this section here. Maybe I'll put a pocket. I might even put some of my washi tape down here. Yeah, I like the way that the matte varnish has sort of toned down the shine of the actual picture there. And for those of you that are following along, it'd be great to see some of the stuff. It'd be great to actually see what you come up with, whether you're going to give it a go or not. This might take a little while for the crackle to dry, because I've put it on quite thick here because I want some really good big thick cracks. And if you're using a heat gun, try not to hold it too close to the work and keep it in one spot for too long, because it will bubble up. And you don't really want that look. Cracks look great, but the bubbly effect doesn't. The thing with using a hairdryer or a heat gun, while it even does, you know, help with the drying time on the surface, underneath, particularly if you're doing this over paint or mediums, that underneath the mediums are not quite dry and they're not cured. They can take around 24 hours or so to actually cure. So even if you're doing a painting and you want to dry off your painting so that you can add another layer, or you can just get on with it, keep that in mind, that your paint layers will not dry underneath perfectly if you're using a hairdryer or a heat gun. They will dry, but it'll take them a little while to get to that, probably about 24 hours. And some paints, particularly the gouache, you know, will at least take 24 hours to cure properly and dry properly. I might be able to touch the surface of the crackle here, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it for a minute and just make sure that that's going to crack nicely. So you can see that the matte finish is really worked here with the matte varnish. Brilliant stuff, because that was really shiny. And even though it's not quite dry yet, it will dry matte. And this white will be certainly toned down once I put the paint in between the cracks of the crackle. I will still also have to put the matte varnish over the top of it, just so that it doesn't soak up too much of the hue as I put it on. I don't want to be having it too deep in colour. I just want hints of colour. So yeah, getting there slowly. So I'll just get that dry and move on to the next step. While I'm waiting for the crackle to dry, it is touch dry, only because I've popped the heat gun over it, but it's not really quite dry yet, so it hasn't started to crack very much yet. What I'm going to do is just pick up the paintbrush and go over this surface here that I did the other day. As far as the crackle, it's beautifully cracked. I'm just going to put a couple of coats of a variety of colours. I'm just going to try and keep in sync with the front cover here, and bring some of those colours in here, because I figure I'm going to do some of my Shabby Roses on here just as a very quick paint. Picking up that colour, popping a bit of green in it because I want to tone that down. I don't know if I'm not showing you here. Okay, so I've got this colour here, which is Permanent Alizarin, and I've made a bit of a watery mix over here, adding a little bit of the green to it. Probably go a little bit heavy-handed here. I want to make it a really deep red type of red-brown sort of look. And I've got my trusty baby wipes on hand. I've already gone over this with the matte varnish so that it's going to protect the base. Even if I mess it up, I can always just come back to it. So I'm just adding this colour into the cracks and going to give it a little bit of a wipe around. I might just be daring and go over the whole thing. Not going to get all the paint up. Even if I put it somewhere where I don't really like it, I'm not going to get it all out, but the baby wipe is going to deal with a good part of it. Might just do it in little stages. Probably better for you to try and do it in stages rather than do the whole sheet at once, because it's not going to be patchy. With the baby wipe you can pretty much get rid of any of the lines that might be in the way. So I'll do that before it dries. Let's grab a baby wipe. Actually what I'll do is I'll take off the majority of the colour with a paper towel first. So I'll just see what I can remove off of here. It's kept a lot of the background paper, or paint rather, on there. So you can see where it's gone into the cracks here. Even that colour's quite nice. If I left the whole background on, it wouldn't look too shabby, too bad. I mean, shabby. I use that for my painting. So, but I'm going to just take off a good majority of it and see what the baby wipe does. It actually lifts quite a lot of that paint. Take away the line effect there. Leave the corners a little bit darker. All right, now I can move on and do some more. I'm happy with the way that's looking at the moment. So I just need to get my paint organised again. Pop it up this end so it's not going to interfere with the main colour. I haven't used an awful lot of water with that, but I've made it this gorgeous dark browny red colour, which I love. And just paint it. It's a little bit different to the first one I put on, so I just add a touch more green to that. You'll get to know, work with your paints. Even if you've got watercolours, it'll look great to put watercolour on, but the watercolour will dry out quickly, so just be aware of that. Maybe a little bit more of the alizarin in there. This is fun. Just, you get what you get kind of thing, like a box of chocolates, you know, Forrest Gump. Life is sort of somewhat like a box of chocolates, and so is painting, because when you're doing this, it's a bit of a box of chocolates, because it depends how much you wipe on and wipe off as to the overall effect. And you'll like a different effect to what I probably would. You know, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. If you want it looking a bit darker, then just go for it, because it's your piece, and you need to do it the way you like it, in the colours that you like it. I'm just using these tones because I started off with that on the front page, and very happy with the way it turned out. Well, that's not getting up a lot of that paint at all, so probably need to wet the paper towel a little bit to remove some more of the paint, but I'm not worried because the baby wipe's going to come through and get all the excess off. I might just pop that down on the table there. Particularly want to pay attention where you've sort of started joining the paint. Just get rid of that first in case it does dry and you can't get it off easily. But you can see how wonderful these cracks make it look. It's giving it a beautiful aged effect. And even though the lines are not ideal, that's the bottom of the actual bag itself, I think it just adds to the overall effect, you know. I'm not going to try and take away the paint out of the lines because I kind of like that there. But I am going to put, you know, a couple of shabby roses on here, or I don't know, I'll work it out in a minute. Just doing this as I go, kind of thinking off the top of my head. But I do like that look. It's not perfect, but it's perfect for this. So just give you a bit of a close-up here. I could add some green to it, just in keeping with a little bit of the tinges of the green on the front here. I might. Let's do it. So I'll wash my brush out a little bit, and I won't take extra care with that because I like a dirty brush. You can get some really good colours with a dirty brush. Let's put it down here. Right, so let's grab some of these areas here. I'm not going all over it. I'm just doing little dabs here and there. And I think it might be interesting. Some of the painting might actually cover up some of these anyway. Yeah, don't want to be too uniform about it all. So I think that'll do for now. Just wipe it off. Wipe it back rather than wipe it off completely. The green I'm putting on, because I've started with a bit of the green on the front anyway, I'm putting on the green because I'm going to be painting some roses or something in the middle there, and they're gonna have green leaves. Generally, my roses have green leaves. Take a bit of extra back. Don't like it too much. Okay, so even that would be great if you're not going to do any painting or anything on there. Just go over it, pop some stickers or do some stamping on top. I've got some wonderful stamps here, including some of the lovely IOD stamps. I might put something in there. It might not be a rose, but so get started. If you're following up with me, just get started and perhaps have a bit of a play with doing a page. I recommend you do both of these the same, just so that when it's opened up, you're going to have something similar on both sides facing, and you can decorate them completely different. But I think having similar colours is going to be better than having colours that scream against each other. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I've tried to glue this little bit down earlier, but it didn't play fair with me. So I'm just going to paint over this one and come back. Right, so that's what I've come up with. It's a similar colour to this one, not exactly the same. I've left the green off this one, and I've made a little start on my Soul of the Rose picture here. What I just wanted to correct is the reddish colour that I'm using is not permanent alizarin. It's actually purple madder, which is a reddish kind of hue, a dark red hue, and I've added some olive green to it just to achieve this particular kind of colour here. It takes away the pink aspect, and what I've been doing while that's been drying is just come up with a colour that I'm happy with to go in around the edge of the painting here. It hasn't finished cracking yet, but I'm okay with that because it's got some really cool texture happening without, you know, too many cracks at all. So I'm just going to keep going with it. What I've done here is I've picked up quite a bit of the olive green on my brush and just a bit of Payne's Grey, which is, if you're not used to different colours in painting, Payne's Grey looks like a really, really dark blue, but it is a grey overtone. So it's wonderful for shading and changing values of the colours, so to make them a little bit darker. If you use it with a red, you'll get a type of purple. So yeah, just use it very sparingly if you're going to use it. I'm going to go around the whole picture and then I'm going to try and wipe back some of the colour. So you can see my brush is quite a dirty browny green colour there. This is it here. This colour here. So it's like a browny kind of colour. You could probably be similar to burnt umber, I suppose. You could put burnt umber and well, you can put whatever colour you like. I'm just going with this colour because when I had a little play with it while the other page was drying, I kind of liked it. But yeah, after creating it, it looks really kind of like a burnt umber. So you only need a few different colours if you're going to be looking to start painting or finding particular paints that you're happy with. Some of the colours, you don't need them all. You just really need the primary colours to start with. And you can mix just about any colour from those primary colours, which are pretty much yellow, red and blue. Well, white isn't a primary colour. I often pop white in anyway because it can change a colour from a normal tone to a pastel type of colour. So yeah, don't go out and buy a whole pile of paints if you're looking to start doing some painting. Just start off with the primaries, or if you're not happy with mixing colours, go for it. Just go and get what you need and the colours that you like and that you want to, you know, create with. I'm dabbing on the brush just to try and get it in some of that texture there. And I'm going over the picture. It looks pretty awful at the moment, but it will pick up in a minute. Just going to make a little bit more of that mix. Okay. I'll just go around, bear with me, and I'll get this in all the bits of texture here. And then I'll start wiping back. I might even put some more blue or the Payne's Grey in here after I rub it back a bit. I'll just want to see what it looks like and go from there. You can always take it off with a baby wipe. You can take a good majority of the paint off, because I have also put, I'm just going to go a bit darker where it bends here. This page will bend over. So I just want to go a little bit darker there so that I've got more paint. Rightio. So let's rub it back a bit and see what it looks like. Just leave my brush there. Should really put it in water, but okay, so I've got my dirty baby wipe here. I'll just go where the hand is because I don't want that covered over particularly. Going to take a little bit more rubbing than I thought. Don't forget, this has actually been sealed because that's what it is. It's sealer that's giving you that effect of the transfer. And I've actually put a matte varnish over top as well, so you should be able to rub back a good majority of the colour. It's also nice to have a bit of the colour swimming over onto the picture itself, just so that it doesn't look too square and neat, unless of course that's what you like. I don't particularly prefer neat, but I'm just sort of rubbing around in a bit of a circle here because I want that paint, a lot of the paint off, but I don't want the brush strokes sort of being seen. It sort of looks like it's adhering more to the picture than I thought it would. But we'll keep persevering. My baby wipe obviously needs replenishing, but I'm a bit lazy. I'll just keep going with this one until I can't do any more, till it won't play games with me. All right, you can see where it's touching here, it's rubbing it off, so it's actually clinging on to the picture more than I expected. But that's, you know, that's all right. Just rub it back a little bit more gently. Yeah, do be gentle, because you don't want to poke a big hole in your picture that you took time to actually get organised. The first one that I did was, yeah, a bit of a disaster, because I think it was all to do with the printing and the age of how long it's been sitting there. But if you use the proper printer settings, then you shouldn't have any problem whatsoever. You should be able to get a really good quality print. All right, so let's go back, start rubbing off. I've also painted down on the tape there. I'm going to leave that dark. I'm just going to kind of remove some of that paint, because I don't want a lot of this removed. You can see a few different colours of brown tones there where I haven't quite matched the colours, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. It's coming along, looking all right. Happy with the way it's starting to look. You know, you don't have to just stick with the picture here either. You could probably put some lace down here. I'm not going to go with the lace thing at the moment. I'm going to basically do all my artwork throughout the book, and then on the journal rather, and then I'm going to take a step back and have a good look at it and see what I can add to it by way of vintage laces, because I've got a whole stack of vintage laces here that are screaming at me to use. I'm just going to get a clean baby wipe, try and remove a bit more paint. All right, so this will get it going. Oh, look at that. Leave some of the paint on. Don't be too over the top with the removal. I'm liking that. Even though it's dark, I like it. I'm going to put some blues. I think even around here I'll put a little bit of the Payne's Grey over top. I see that gorgeous texture from the crackle paste. It hasn't cracked the way that the other had, because it isn't really quite dry, and it probably will crack. It's just a matter of letting it dry underneath. I whacked it over the top with the heat gun, but yeah, obviously that's not ideal, because it only just really dries the surface, and what we want for the crackle paste is for it to dry underneath, so that you're getting where are we? There we go. I think that'll do for that. I'm just going to get my brush back, and I might just take out some of that colour, and I'm going to leave some of it in. I'm just going to grab some Payne's Grey and put it in this mix here at the corner. See, I'm mixing it there. Right, and I'm going to, where this is darker around the edges here, I'm just going to go in a little bit darker with a different tone. Probably a bit more Payne's Grey in there. So it's a gorgeous deep purpley colour. It's not really what I was going for, but it'll do. I just want to make it look interesting. I won't be taking too much of this colour off. I think it's got probably too much water in it. I should have wiped my brush as well when I cleaned it down. Just come across a little bit. All right, brush can go away. I'm going back to my paper towel here just to dab. As I said, I don't want to remove too much of that colour there. I like it dark like that. All right, so I'm happy with that. And what I'll do is I might wait until this is completely dry, and then we'll start on these pages here. In my next video, we'll start to decorate these. So have a little bit of a play. If you've got the mediums, you know, just have a bit of a practice, and I'll come back with my next video, which will be probably in either 1 or 2 days. I'm back to work on Thursday, so I'm hoping to get a couple of these pages finished off for you, just to give you a good head start with some ideas. I hope it's been a helpful video for you, and feel free to ask me any questions. As I said earlier, I'm happy to answer any questions regarding any of the mediums, and just trying to clean off. I've got some varnish on my table there, just trying to scratch it off while I'm talking. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions or leave any comments. And if you haven't subscribed, it'd be really nice if you could subscribe and perhaps even give me a thumbs up. And I appreciate you watching. Thank you again.